The script said I was supposed to be the noble, suffering sidekick, destined to be humiliated for someone else's glory. But when she threw a credit card on the table, I decided it was time to tear up the script. The air in our dorm room always felt thin, as if the ambitions of its occupants were sucking all the oxygen out. My corner was sparse, a testament to a life lived on scholarships and ramen. Next to me was Serafina Vance's equally barren territory. Then there was Chloe Sterling's space, an island of opulent chaos, smelling of expensive perfume and littered with shopping bags from brands I couldn't even pronounce. I was rereading the acceptance letter for the student hardship loan when Chloe's voice, sharp and polished as a diamond, cut through the silence. Seriously? A student loan? She was perched on her vanity, meticulously applying a lash that probably cost more than my textbooks. She sighed, a dramatic, world-weary sound. The girls in the other dorms are laughing at us, saying our room is the charity case of the floor. Without turning, she flicked her wrist. A sleek black credit card skidded across the desk and stopped right in front of me. Clap. There, take it. Pay your tuition. Just stop making us look so bleak. Before I could even blink, Serafina was on her feet, her eyes flashing with righteous fury. She was the story's designated heroine, the beautiful, impoverished orphan with a heart of gold and a spine of steel. "We don't need your charity, Chloe," she seethed, grabbing my arm. Her grip was surprisingly tight. "People are equal. You can't just use your money to humiliate us." She turned to me, her expression softening into one of saintly compassion. "Lily, don't listen to her. We can get part-time jobs together. Poor people have to have self-respect." I looked at her hand on my arm. In the story I was supposed to live, this was the moment I was meant to feel a surge of loyalty, to stand with my noble friend against the cruel elite. I was supposed to endure hardship, get mugged in an alleyway to prove her bravery, and give up my own final exams to search for her when she inevitably ran off after a fight with the male lead, Nate. I was supposed to suffer so she could succeed. I had read that chapter before, and I was done with it. Gently but firmly, I pulled my arm from her grasp. I looked at her, my expression one of genuine confusion. "Sarah, what are you talking about? Our roommate is being generous, and you're accusing her of being malicious. Why would you put such ugly words in her mouth?" I then turned to Chloe, my face breaking into the most dazzling, sycophantic smile I could muster. I snatched the card from the desk and held it like a holy relic. "Chloe, you're a lifesaver. Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? From this day forward, you and I are best friends." Both of them stared at me, utterly dumbfounded. I scurried over to Chloe's side, fawning shamelessly. "My lady, my queen, is there anything I can do for you? Your humble servant is at your command." Serafina's face contorted in disgust. She stomped her foot. "Lily Ross, how could you trade your dignity for money? I'm ashamed of you." I shot her a withering glare. "Who said I don't have dignity? I just said thank you. Are you crazy? If you're so ashamed of me, then stay away from me." And I then leaned toward Chloe and whispered loudly, "And for the record, we're not that close. Please don't let her speak for me ever again." With a choked sob, Serafina turned and fled the room, slamming the door behind her. Chloe finally broke her stunned silence. A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. "Well, well, looks like you've got some sense after all," she said, looking me up and down. "Stick with me, kid. You'll be eating steak and lobster from now on." I knew her story, too. I knew her obsession with the male lead, Nate, would lead her to financial ruin and a tragic end at his hands. Looking at her, so beautiful and proud, I made a new vow. I wasn't just going to change my fate. I was going to change hers, too. After a hot shower scrubbing away the grime of my old life, I returned to the room to find Chloe still meticulously working on her makeup. I quickly made her bed, smoothing the 1,000 count sheets before tidying my own meager belongings. First priority, keep the queen happy. Chloe glanced from my neatly made bed to hers, then back again. "Tisk," she clicked her tongue. "You really radiate poverty, you know that?" I leaned against her desk, deciding it was time for the performance of a lifetime. "You have no idea," I said, my voice dropping. "I'm from a tiny town in the sticks. My parents kept having girls, 7 of them, trying for a boy. I was number 8. My original name wasn't even Lily. They called me Hope Ann, as in hope for a boy. They finally got their son after me." I paused, letting the information sink in. They were planning to marry me off to this lecherous old landowner, a guy in his 50s who'd already burned through 2 wives, all for a bit of cash to fix their roof. I only escaped because I got my acceptance letter to Northwood. My sisters pulled every dollar they had to buy me a bus ticket. I took a sip of water from Chloe's fancy imported bottle. "They locked me in my room when they found out. My sister, Clara, let me out in the middle of the night. She said they wouldn't dare hurt her too badly since they still planned on selling her off next. She told me to run and never look back." Mascara Wand froze mid-air. Her big, expressive eyes were wide with horror. She slammed her hand on the desk, making her perfume bottles rattle. "That's barbaric. They're monsters. I want to sue them." She immediately grabbed her phone. "Give me your Venmo. Now." A notification pinged on my phone a second later. A sum with enough zeros to make my head spin. "That's for your tuition and living expenses for all 4 years, she declared. "And if your sisters want to get out, I'll pay for their bus tickets and cover their rent for a few months until they find jobs." My heart hammered against my ribs. I immediately called Clara. Within an hour, she confirmed that she and my 2 other unmarried sisters were ready to run. I sent them the money Chloe had given me. The next morning, Clara texted me a photo of the 3 of them on a train, heading to a city 3 states away where factories were hiring. Their smiles were brighter than the sun. When I showed the photo to Chloe, she looked at me with newfound respect. "That was fast." When you're running for your life, you don't waste time. My loyalty was sealed. I became Chloe's shadow, her lady-in-waiting, her royal strategist. And she, in turn, draped me in a life I'd only ever dreamed of. My wardrobe was replaced, my worn-out mattress swapped for a plush one, and my old flip phone upgraded to the latest model. "My best friend can't look like a charity case," she had announced. "It's bad for my brand." We were on a water break during the last day of freshman orientation week when Chloe suddenly grabbed my arm, her face flushed with excitement. "Lily, look at my makeup. Is it perfect? No smudgies?" "Flawless, as always," I confirmed. "Why? Where are you going?" "To confess," she whispered excitedly. My stomach dropped. "To whom?" "Nate Rivers, of course. Who else?" Her eyes glazed over. "He's so tall and handsome. I knew the second I saw him." I pulled her behind a large oak tree, out of sight from the crowds of students. "Okay, wait. How exactly are you planning to do this?" She thought for a moment. "Well, I was going to do it right there, in front of everyone. Big and public, so he'll see how serious I am. And I heard his family doesn't have much money, so I was going to offer to pay off his student loans. He'll be so moved, just like you were." I wanted to shake her. The villain playbook was so tragically predictable. "Chloe, stop," I said with a firm voice. "I have to tell you something critical. Nate and Serafina, they're childhood friends, grew up in the same orphanage." Chloe's face went blank. What?" "They're a package deal. Think about it. Remember how Sarah acted when you offered us money? How she looked at us? Nate has the exact same pride. If you go out there and flash cash at him, he'll think you're mocking him. He'll hate you. I guarantee Sarah has already been telling him how horrible, materialistic people we are." Panic filled her eyes. But what do I do? I really, really like him. It feels like the most important thing in the world right now." The pull of the original plot was strong. I had to be stronger. "Chloe," I said, putting my hands on her shoulders, "if you really want to win him over, you have to listen to me. Every single word. Otherwise, you won't just fail, you'll make him despise you forever." She nodded frantically. Okay, I'll listen. What's step 1? "Step 1, you give me all your credit cards and cash. From now on, you are forbidden from using money to influence anyone, except me, of course." She obediently handed over her wallet. I held back a squeal of delight as I peeked inside. I would be the most loyal bodyguard in history. "Step 2, I continued, You can crush on him all you want, but it has to be a spiritual connection. No material temptations. That's the T. If you pull out your wallet, he'll see you as shallow. You have to be different. She nodded again, her brow furrowed in deep, serious thought. Just as I was about to lay out step 3, a shout came from across the field. "Oh my God, somebody help! Nate Rivers just collapsed. I think his leg is broken." Chloe moved like a hurricane, and I was swept up in her wake. In the hospital's sterile emergency room, a doctor confirmed it, a clean break in Nate's tibia. After they set his leg in a cast, a nurse handed over the bill. "That will be $3,281, she said, her voice flat. The room fell silent. The only people with Nate were me, Chloe, and Serafina, who had rushed over looking artfully distressed. Nate's face, already pale from the pain, flushed with a deep, humiliating red. Serafina bit her lip, shooting a pointed glare at Chloe. This was the moment. Chloe's hand instinctively flew to her designer purse. I subtly moved to block her, whispering urgently, "You're broke, remember? You have no money." She froze, her eyes wide with confusion and conflict. Serafina seized the opportunity. "Chloe, you're not just going to stand there, are you?" she said, her voice dripping with faux disappointment. "I thought you cared so much for Nate. You know he can't afford this. Or is your kindness just for show?" Nate's gaze hardened as he looked at Chloe, a flicker of resentment in his eyes. Chloe looked at me, her expression screaming for help. I stepped forward, my voice filled with righteous indignation. "Serafina, have you no shame? Nate's leg is broken and you're trying to humiliate him about money? He's already suffering enough. If you care so much, why don't you empty your own pockets? We all know you've been working 3 part-time jobs." I turned to Chloe, my voice softening with emotion. "And as for my friend Chloe, she has the kindest heart of anyone I know. She quietly used her savings to help a poor student in need. Me. She didn't ask for any recognition." I looked directly at Nate, my eyes sincere. "Rest assured, Nate, Chloe would never use money to make you feel small. She's not that kind of person. She believes in your strength." As if on cue, Chloe puffed out her chest and raised her hand in a solemn bow. "That's right, Nate. I believe in you. I swear I will never, ever offer you a single dime." The expressions on Nate and Serafina's faces were priceless, a perfect blend of confusion and utter disbelief. I thought you liked him," Serafina stammered. "And this is how I show it," Chloe declared proudly. The nurse, impatient, cleared her throat. "Someone needs to pay the bill." Nate ducked his head, his voice barely a whisper. I don't have it right now. Can I work out a payment plan?" Chloe looked like she was about to cry from sympathy. I grabbed her arm and dragged her out of the room. "We'll visit you tomorrow, Nate," she called over her shoulder, her voice full of longing. The second we were outside the hospital doors, Chloe burst into tears. "What's wrong?" I asked, feigning surprise. "She's just so pitiful," she sobbed, mascara starting to run. "It hurts my heart to see him suffer, and it feels even worse not being able to help." I sighed, patting her back. "But you did help him, you just don't realize it yet." Then I rubbed my stomach. "I'm starving." Chloe immediately straightened up, her grief forgotten. "Right, let's go." She whisked me off to a 5-star hotel restaurant. As I cracked open the claw of an enormous lobster, I patiently laid out the next phase of her education. "Think about it," I began, dipping a piece of succulent meat into melted butter. "We're taught that hardship builds character, right?" Chloe was busy trying to figure out which fork to use. I must have skipped that class. "You were an international transfer. It's fine," I improvised. "Look, people like Serafina, their pride is all they have. When you threw money at her, you were robbing her of the chance to overcome adversity on her own. You were taking away her character-building moment. If you keep throwing money at Nate, he'll resent you for the same reason. Men, especially, don't like to feel like a woman is more capable than they are. You get it?" Her face was scrunched in a pout. "But watching him suffer makes me suffer." I took her hand, my expression full of empathy. "I know, you have a generous spirit. So here's a solution. Every time you feel that overwhelming urge to help Nate, you channel that generosity towards me instead. That way, you get the satisfaction of helping someone, and I get to suffer less. It's a win-win." She blinked, processing this. "But don't you need to build character?" Absolutely not, I said with a grin. My only ambition in life, my queen, is to be your loyal, well-fed, and stylishly dressed follower. I don't need character, I need comfort. When we got back to the dorm, Serafina was sitting on her bed, wiping away tears. Chloe immediately rushed over. Sarah, what's wrong? Is Nate okay? I placed a takeout box with a still warm crab cake on my desk, already looking forward to my pre-sleep snack. It's none of your business, Serafina snapped. Chloe, however, was now on a mission. She started pacing, agitated. I have to go see him. I have to check on him at the men's dorm. Don't you dare, I said, pointing at her with the fork. I already told you, you can't rob him of his chance to grow. But I can't just sit here, she whined, looking like a caged tiger. Seeing her distress, I softened my approach. Okay, look, call him. A phone call shows you care, but it also creates distance. It's mysterious. I continued, channeling every piece of pop psychology I'd ever read. The worst way to pursue someone is to be constantly in their face. The best way is to be an enigma. Remember, things that come too easily are never valued. Besides, what if he's trying to pursue someone else and you're just getting in the way? I shot a meaningful glance at the still sniffling Serafina. Her eyes widened in disbelief. So that's what you're doing? You're scheming to get Nate? He would never like a manipulative girl like you. With that, she grabbed her backpack and stormed out. Chloe looked at me worried. Now what? I calmly took a bite of crab cake. Simple. Serafina is your rival, so a new rule. Whatever she tells you to do, you do the opposite. Today, she wanted you to pay for Nate. We didn't. Now she says Nate hates scheming girls. What does that really mean? Her eyes slowly lit up with understanding. It means he must secretly like them. Exactly, I said with a grin. Now come on, lie down and tell me which new designer handbag you've been eyeing. Our visits to Nate became a strange new ritual. Because of his cast, he'd been moved to a temporary room on the ground floor of his dorm, typically reserved for the RA. The place was a mess of discarded instant noodle cups, scattered textbooks, and the general clutter of a teenage boy left to his own devices. The first time we visited, Chloe instinctively started picking up trash, but I shot her a look. She immediately froze, her hands hovering in the air, and began muttering under her breath like a prayer. Cannot rob him of his chance to suffer. Cannot rob him of his chance to suffer. I smiled, satisfied, and turned my attention to Nate. Hey, Nate, we just wanted to see how you were feeling. Is the leg any better? He would watch us come in, his eyes scanning our empty hands, a flicker of hope dimming each time. A little better, he'd say, his voice weak. This time, however, the look in his eyes wasn't just hopeful, it was expectant. Chloe, well-rehearsed, launched into her performance. Nate, remember to rest well. I'm really concerned about you. If there's anything you need, just let me know. Nate hesitated, then took the bait. Well, he began, his voice low. I had to borrow money from Sarah to pay that hospital bill, and now I can't work my part-time job. If you could help out. The suggestion hung in the air, thick and obvious. Chloe looked at me, her face a mask of panic, silently begging for instructions. I gave her a subtle, encouraging nod. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. Nate, I know things are tough right now, but I believe in you. I know that with your own hard work, you will definitely overcome this. You have my full support, my full moral support. Nate and Serafina, who was sitting beside him, just stared. They were utterly speechless. I clapped my hands together, breaking the awkward silence. Well, that's our time. Gotta go study. I pulled a delighted Chloe out of the room, leaving the two of them to stew in their character-building moment. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Chloe practiced her moral support routine on Nate, who seemed to be warming to her, intrigued by her bizarre new personality. I, in the meantime, was enjoying the life of a pampered sidekick, until the day my old life came crashing back. It happened in the main campus quad during the afternoon rush. A woman's shriek sliced through the chatter of the students. Lily Ross, you ungrateful child! My mother, looking haggard and travel-worn, was splayed on the grass, beating the ground with her fists. My father stood beside her, his face a thundercloud, and my younger brother, now 15, looked around with greedy, assessing eyes. "After we raised you, you go to college and forget your poor parents," my mother wailed. "And you convinced your sisters to abandon us too. Are you trying to destroy this family?" A crowd instantly formed. This scene was straight out of the original script. In that version, after some prodding from the sainted Serafina, I was supposed to have a tearful reconciliation, followed by my family bleeding me dry for the rest of the story. Just then, as if summoned, Serafina pushed through the crowd. Her eyes were already glistening with tears. "Ma'am, we all know Lily. She's just been led astray by money and the wrong kind of friends." She shot a venomous look at Chloe. "She's just confused." My brother took this as his cue. He lunged at me, reaching for my new phone. "Give me that! Give it here!" Before he could touch it, Chloe stepped in front of me. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped, her voice dangerously cold. "I bought her that phone. If you so much as scratch it, I'll have you arrested for attempted robbery. You'll be in a juvenile detention center by dinner." My brother, a classic bully who was only brave at home, immediately recoiled. Serafina's voice rose, filled with condemnation. "Chloe, this is a family matter. You're an outsider. Besides, you don't know what a blessing it is to have parents. I've dreamed of having a family my whole life. I'd give anything to have a mother and father, no matter how poor or flawed." Her words hit their mark. The crowd murmured in sympathy. A few students were actually tearing up. And then so did I. I burst into loud, racking sobs. Serafina looked at me, a smug, triumphant glint in her eyes. Chloe looked horrified. "Lily, no, don't you dare fall for this." I ignored her, stumbling forward and grabbing Serafina's hands. Everyone gasped. "Oh, Sarah, you're so right. You're so good and so kind." Serafina puffed up with pride. The crowd nodded approvingly. I turned to my stunned parents. "Mom, Dad, I know you love me, and you're right. I've been a terrible daughter. I know that you'll be willing to help me pay off my debts, won't you?" I sniffled. "Since coming to college, I've been so lost. I got into online gambling, and I borrowed so much money from loan sharks." Then I whirled back to Serafina, my grip on her hands tightening. "Sarah, we're roommates. We're like sisters. You're too good to me. If it weren't for you, I would have never recognized the treasure my parents are. You don't have a family, but I do, and I'm willing to share. From now on, you're my sister. My parents are your parents. Go on, Sarah, call them Mom and Dad. Isn't this what you've always wanted?" A student in the crowd whispered, "What a beautiful ending." I looked at my dumbfounded parents. "Mom, Dad, you don't know this, but Sarah is the most responsible person in our dorm. She works 4 jobs. She makes so much money. You should adopt her." I shoved a shell-socked Serafina toward them. "Go on, Sarah. Embrace your new family. I'm an ungrateful child. I don't deserve them. They're all yours now." Serafina opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "Don't say a word. I know you're moved to tears. Helping a friend is a noble tradition. You don't need to thank me. Just maybe you could help me pay back the $2,675 I owe Chloe and the $19,871 I owe the online loan sharks as my new sister." My mother's face turned purple. "Are you even human?" she screeched, scrambling to her feet. "You're supposed to be supporting us now, not asking for money." I clutched my heart, feigning a mortal wound. "Mother," I gasped, my voice cracking, "I can't believe you'd be so selfish. I'm your daughter, drowning in debt, and you won't help me? Do you even love me?" The crowd, which had been on their side moments before, now began to murmur with disapproval. She's right. That's her own daughter. Families should help each other, no matter what. Wait, if Lily has debt, How come Serafina is making so much money? What a shame. The parents should help pay it back together. My parents exchanged a panicked glance. They saw their golden goose was, in fact, a black hole of debt. My mother's eyes landed on the frozen figure of Serafina. In a flash, she grabbed her arm. Come, my poor child. From now on, you are our family. You are our good, sweet daughter. My father nodded, putting on his most gentle, rustic expression. Serafina's eyes, to my astonishment, filled with genuine tears of gratitude. My parents began to drag her away, my brother trailing them like a vulture. Wait, Mom, Dad, give me some money, I wailed after them. I promise I won't gamble anymore. I beg you. My mother flung my imaginary plea over her shoulder. We're disowning you. Serafina is our only daughter now. You can't just disown me. Those loan sharks know your address. They didn't look back. As they disappeared, I saw Nate, leaning on his crutches at the edge of the crowd, his gaze fixed on Serafina's retreating back. The crowd dispersed, leaving just me and Chloe. Chloe immediately ran to Nate's side to make her presence known. Nate, that was awful. Now Serafina is gone, and Lily has no one. I'm the pitiful one now. All my money was scammed by Lily. I'm so upset I can't even eat. She looked at him with wide, innocent eyes. Nate frowned. Why are you friends with someone like Lily Ross? She's a grown woman trying to leech off her parents. She doesn't appreciate family. If you want parents so badly, I can call them back for you, I offered sweetly. He glowered at me. I would never be siblings with Serafina. I gave Chloe a subtle look. She immediately drooped, twisting her fingers together. Nate, I'm out of money for dinner. Can I use your meal card? I'll stop being friends with Lily. I'll be friends with you. After a moment's hesitation, Nate sighed. Fine. In the cafeteria, Nate got himself a bowl of plain rice and a cup of the free soup. Chloe, despite being a penniless damsel, still had the instincts of a queen. She loaded up a tray with steak, shrimp, and pasta, swiping a hefty $28 from Nate's card. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. At the table, Chloe took 2 bites of steak and then put her fork down with a sigh. Nate, you're so admirable, she said, looking at his meager meal. So healthy and disciplined. I should be more like you. I immediately reached over and pulled her tray in front of me. Can't let food go to waste, I announced, cheerfully before digging in. I'm a helper. I then pushed my own untouched bowl of soup towards her. To keep the conversation with Nate, Chloe spent the rest of the meal praising the free soup and plain rice, insisting they were her favorite foods. Nate, probably smelling an opportunity to land this beautiful, if slightly odd girl, mumbled his agreement. Back in the dorm, Chloe finally let her facade drop. So, how did I do today? Was my performance convincing? I gave her a thumbs up. Oscar-worthy. See? He's already so much warmer to you now that you're eating together. I leaned in, ready for the next lesson. From now on, this is the strategy. You use his card, you order a feast, and then you praise his simple food and eat like a rabbit. Got it? She pouted, pulling a bag of beef jerky from her snack drawer. But I want to eat the meat, and that soup tasted like dishwater. I sighed dramatically, snatching a piece of her jerky. Chloe, what is your competitive advantage? She looked blank. What? It's the contrast, I explained. A beautiful, glamorous heiress who loves free soup and plain rice? It's unexpected. It's fascinating. It makes him curious. And once a man is curious about a woman, love isn't far behind. And, I added, you have to keep using his card. It makes you look pitiful and weak. Serafina uses that trick all the time. It works. She sat on her bed, deep in thought, digesting this new mountain of information. Satisfied, I flopped onto my own bed, pulling out my laptop. I logged into an obscure online marketplace, found the seller I was looking for, and began to finalize the details of our agreement. Phase 2 of my plan was officially in motion. Weeks passed and our bizarre routine continued. Chloe grew more adept at playing the part of a love-learned girl, fascinated by a simple life. But Nate was growing impatient. "You're out of money?" he asked one evening, his brow furrowed. "Why don't you just ask your parents? I thought they were loaded." Chloe delivered the lines we had rehearsed for hours. She produced a single perfect tear. I can't. My father, he has a son now with his new wife. He told me the family fortune is for the heir. I'm on my own." Her voice was a masterpiece of wounded pride. Nate's expression softened, his suspicion replaced by a flicker of pity. The story of a wronged heiress was far more compelling than that of a spoiled brat. "Well then, get a part-time job," he suggested, his tone now gentle. "You can't just rely on others." Chloe glanced at me, her eyes wide. This was a new development. I gave her a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of my head, but she was already speaking, falling back on another one of our pre-planned defenses. "But I don't know how to do anything," she whimpered, looking down at her perfectly manicured hands. "And I'm afraid of hard work." Nate recoiled as if she'd slapped him. "You thought you were a real heiress," he muttered, disgust creeping into his voice as he snatched his meal card back. "Look at Serafina. She knows how to work for what she wants." At that very moment, Serafina herself walked past our table. The dark circles under her eyes were more pronounced, but she wore a strange, blissful smile. Since being adopted by my parents, she had moved out of the dorm to live with them. They treated her like a princess, lavishing her with the suffocating attention I had run away from. They waited for her at the campus gates every day to protect her, brought her snacks, and did her laundry. "Speaking of work, Sterling," Serafina said, pausing at our table, "if you're so broke, you should come work with me. There are no useless people in this world, only lazy ones. We must repay our parents' love by not being a burden." Nate nodded in fervent agreement. To my horror, Chloe stood up. "Okay, I'll go." "Don't you dare," I hissed under my breath. Later, when Nate and Serafina were gone, I confronted her. "Are you insane? You can't actually go work with her. That's not part of the plan." "I have to," she insisted, her eyes flashing with a new determination. "I need to see what's so great about this girl Nate admires so much. I need to understand my competition." "You're a rich girl who wants to scrub toilets to understand your rival who is a lunatic?" I screeched, losing my composure. "You have a perfectly good life as an heiress, and you want to throw it away to be miserable? For a guy?" Her lower lip trembled. "You yelled at me," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "You're mean. I'm not playing with you anymore." She turned and ran out of the cafeteria. I swore under my breath, my head throbbing. This girl was going to be the death of me. But watching the balance on her credit card flash in my mind, I sighed, picked up my bag, and ran after her. "Chloe, wait for me. Let's talk this through." And so began the most ridiculous month of my life. Every day, Chloe went to work with Serafina, at a cafe, a library, a catering service, and every day I followed them, watching from a distance, ready to intervene if things went wrong. During this time, my other plan was bearing fruit. The online debt collectors I'd hired began their campaign of harassment. They called my parents at all hours, sent them threatening letters, and posted comments on their social media. Finally, my parents did exactly what I wanted. They posted a tearful video online, complete with signed documents, officially disowning their ungrateful, debt-ridden daughter. I was finally, legally free. I watched the video and felt a satisfaction so deep it was almost sweet. My surveillance of Chloe continued, day after exhausting day. Then one evening, the script finally changed. It was late, and I was watching from across the street as Chloe and Serafina finished their shift at a bookstore. But my parents' car wasn't there. For the first time, they hadn't come to pick up their precious daughter. "It's late. Let's take a shortcut through this alley," I heard Serafina say, pointing toward the dark, narrow path between two buildings. Chloe hesitated for a second, then nodded. As they stepped into the shadows of the alley, my blood ran cold. From the other end, four rough-looking men emerged, their silhouettes blocking the only way out. They started walking slowly, deliberately, towards the two girls.
The men in the alley grinned, their teeth flashing in the dim light. Serafina immediately shrieked, but not in fear for their safety. She pointed a trembling finger at Chloe. "It's her! Take her!" she screamed. "Her name is Chloe Sterling. Her father is a business tycoon. She's the rich one. If you take her, her father will pay a huge ransom." The men's grins widened. "Oh, a little heiress. This is our lucky day." Chloe stared at Serafina, her face a mask of pure disbelief. "Sarah, are you insane?" she whispered. Then her shock hardened into fury. "There are only 4 of them, and 2 are shorter than me. We can fight them." "No," Serafina shrieked, her face wild. "I won't let you drag me down with you. I will get help, I promise. Just keep them busy for me." What happened next was a blur of motion so shocking it felt unreal. Serafina bent down, her hand closing around a loose brick at the edge of the alley. With a desperate cry, she swung it. Thud. The sound was sickeningly dull. Chloe stumbled, her hand flying to the side of her head. Her eyes were wide with a pain that was deeper than physical. She didn't even see Serafina drop the brick and sprint away into the darkness. The thugs were momentarily stunned by the sheer brutality of the act. Then they began to chuckle, turning their slow, predatory gaze to the stunned and wounded Chloe. "Stop right there," my voice echoed down the alley. I stepped out from the shadows of the street corner. The men turned, annoyed. "Who the hell are you?" one of them growled. I didn't answer. I just raised my hand and snapped my fingers. Instantly, 6 large men in professional black suits materialized from the darkness surrounding the alley. They were the private security team I'd had shadowing Chloe for the past month, paid for by her own emergency fund. I commanded, "Detain all of them," and that includes the girl who ran away. The thugs were subdued in seconds. A few blocks down, the security team easily caught the hysterical Serafina. The police arrived within minutes, summoned by a call I had made the moment Chloe entered the alley. The evidence was overwhelming. The testimony of the security team, the high-definition video I had been recording on my phone, and the footage from the 3 surveillance cameras I had paid to have installed in this very alley a month ago. At the hospital, a doctor stitched up the gash on Chloe's head. Her parents arrived, frantic and furious. Chloe, wrapped in a blanket and looking small and fragile, finally broke down. She confessed everything between sobs. The crush on Nate, the ridiculous plan to act poor, the fights, the way I had tried to stop her, the way I had followed her every day to keep her safe. Her father's face went from rage to a deep, profound gratitude as he looked at me. Her mother held her, tears streaming down her face. Just then, the door to the private room burst open. It was Nate, looking panicked, but his eyes weren't on Chloe. He rushed to her bedside. "Chloe, you have to go to the police station. You have to explain it clearly. Tell her Serafina didn't mean to hurt you. She was just scared. When people are terrified, their actions don't count. Please, forgive her." Chloe stared at him, the last trace of affection in her eyes dying out, replaced by a cold, clear light. "Nate," she said, her voice quiet but steady, "do you even know what she did?" His eyes flickered. He knew. The video I had taken had already gone viral across campus group chats. "She was just under a lot of pressure," he stammered. "I know you've always been against her, thinking she stole me from you, but I only see her as a little sister. We grew up together. If you just get her out of this, I promise I'll agree to be with you." I settled onto the empty bed next to Chloe's, watching the final act of this tragedy play out. After a long, heavy silence, Chloe spoke. You think I can use my father's influence to get me more benefits? Don't you? That's what this has all been about. Your hot and cold behavior, you were just trying to figure out how rich I really was. If you truly loved Serafina, you wouldn't have hesitated. You wouldn't have strung us both along. A single tear rolled down her cheek. But it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of rage. I must have been blind to ever like you. Then she turned to me, her eyes blazing, a wicked, beautiful smile spread across her face. Lily? She said. Yes, my queen, I replied, leaning forward eagerly. I want him removed. Now. I'll give you $10,000 for every security guard it takes to throw him out. My eyes lit up. You're on. Nate couldn't believe his ears. Chloe, you can't have someone assault me. This cheap trick won't work on. I didn't even let him finish. I snapped my fingers. Two of the guards who had been waiting outside the door stepped in, grabbed a stunned Nate by the arms, and dragged him kicking and screaming from the room. Chloe's father stopped me before I could join in. That's enough, Lily, he said, his voice firm but amused. Don't actually kill the boy. I pouted, then turned to Chloe with a grin. Okay, so that was 2 guards. That'll be $20,000, please. Chloe laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Fine. From now on, I'm done with him. Don't ever mention his name again. I gave her a sharp salute. As you command. As Chloe finally relaxed into her mother's arms, I watched Nate's pathetic figure being hauled away. My work here was done, and I was about to be very, very rich.
The day after the incident, Chloe's parents summoned me to her hospital room. Her father, a man whose tailored suit probably cost more than my entire previous life, slid a thick folder across the table to me. Inside, he said, his voice heavy with gratitude, are the keys and deed to a condominium in Los Angeles. It's yours. We've also opened a trust fund in your name. You will never have to worry about money again. He then added, we would be honored if you would let us adopt you. We want you to officially be Chloe's sister. I was deeply moved, but I pushed the folder back. Sir, I can't accept this. I looked over at Chloe, who was watching me with hopeful eyes. I don't want to be Chloe's sister. I saw her face fall for a second before I continued with the grin. I am her loyal follower, her royal vanguard. That is my chosen place in life. Next time she wants to chase a boy, I need to be there to run interference. Chloe burst out laughing, and her parents exchanged a look of fond exasperation. I did, however, accept the bank card. A royal follower needs resources, after all. The legal fallout was swift. With the video evidence and testimony, Serafina was convicted of aggravated assault. She took a plea deal and was sentenced to a few years in a minimum security correctional facility. The school expelled her immediately. Mate's fate was less traumatic, but just as final. After the public humiliation, and with the powerful Sterling family making their displeasure known, his life on campus became impossible. He failed his classes, lost his scholarships, and quietly dropped out of Northwood by the end of the semester. My family, deprived of their new cash cow, Serafina, was forced to get jobs. My debt collectors made sure they understood that bothering me was no longer an option. Life moved on. 2 years passed. Chloe and I were now juniors. I was still her lazy, luxury-loving sidekick, and she was still the proud, glamorous queen of the campus, though she was much wiser now. Our friendship, forged in a ridiculous, calculated scheme, had somehow become the most real thing in our lives. One day, I got a call. Serafina had been released on parole. My first thought was to wonder what fresh hell she would unleash. The answer came sooner than I expected. Upon her release, she was immediately met by my parents and brother, who saw her as their last-ditch meal ticket. They followed her relentlessly, begging, crying, and threatening, creating scenes wherever she went. The constant harassment, coupled with the trauma of her downfall, finally broke something inside her. She never laid a hand on them. Her end was quieter and, in a way, sadder. She was found in the middle of a public park, dressed in rags, staring into space and muttering to anyone who would listen, "I'm the main character. This is my story. I am the heroine." She was committed to a long-term psychiatric care facility. A few weeks later, I received another call, this one from the local police in my old hometown. They said my parents had left a small savings account, and since I was the only next of kin not actively avoiding the law, the remaining balance was mine. It was a few $1,000s. When I looked at the transaction history, every single deposit had come from Serafina's Pilsen work account. It was the money my parents had guilted out of her, cent by cent. I took the money. I drove to the nearest city and donated every last dollar to the orphanage where Serafina and Nate had grown up. It felt right. A final, clean severing of the past. I was, after all, a very kind person.